Yep. Hey, everybody. It's Mike.
Holly.
And welcome to another amazingly awesome optimized meetup. Woo! Now, we're likely going to be joined by a guest today. But until then, let's roll through a breathes. So you can do this standing up, sitting down, eyes open, eyes closed, whatever. Just be present. So take a moment and feel yourself grounded. If you're sitting, feel yourself grounded in your seat. If you're standing, feel yourself grounded to the floor or wherever you happen to be in the world. So let's breathe in for count of 6. We're going to hold for 2, and then we're going to breathe out for a count of 7. So here we go. In for 6. Out for 7. Okay, you can keep that cadence or whatever. So we want to breathe in, inhale, and energize. Feel that energy growing within you. You want to exhale and allow that energy to feel your entire body. Inhale, feeling tall, telos, like an archer. Take aim and feel that target. Now exhale with a heroic heart. That means chest up, chin down. Feel the love in your heart and give it to the world. Now inhale, eudaimon. See that best version of you, be that best version of you, and exhale with a smile. Rock and roll, let's do this. Okay, I've got to admit, folks. Okay. Oh, hello there.
Hello.
How are you guys?
There we go. So you can't hear you. There you go.
I see all the amazing drawings in the background.
Yes. Wow.
Ask Chris, is like, do you want to be facing the pictures or showing the pictures?
I think it's amazing.
He didn't respond. I'm like, good.
How long have you been doing art?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been drawing and painting there, Chris?
Oh, I'm going to turn you up all the way. Okay.
All right.
All right, say that again.
How long have you been drawing, painting, and doing your artist work?
That's a good question. Well, I've been an artist all my life since I was young, like very young. But but there were times in my life where, you know, I wasn't doing it for a while, so I'd have these kind of long periods where I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And you know, art is a very complex skill, and like any skill, if you don't practice it, you actually lose it. You know, it's not like riding a bike, because even riding a bike, you'll forget how to do that too. And that's something that I figured out, you know, years ago, probably about 7 years ago, and I made a commitment to doing art every day for the rest of my life for a while. Yeah, and that's kind of part of, you know, she's working on a book, so I'm doing the drawings.
No, I thought it was amazing. I went through your sort of your version of a note for artists, and it was amazingly detailed. I dropped out before I finished the whole thing because it didn't quite pertain to me, but I thought it was awesome.
Thank you.
You know, it was a pretty cool take on a book specifically towards an artist's perspective.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, you know, I have a whole lineup of books that I want to review. A lot more art books. you know, like with anything you do, the wisdom that we've learned through Optimize, you know, reviews and stuff, I'm constantly looking at it and going, whoa, I could really apply this to, you know, being an artist in some way.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's out there doing it, right?
I mean, you know, artists are all about just doing the artwork, and they don't care about how much they sleep, you know.
Does Optimize help you fix that?
Yeah, yeah. But, you know, that's the thing. And that's one of the books that I'm going to review. Sorry.
Awesome. We may get interrupted today. Our children are
Just waking
rearing. Oh, yeah, just waking up. They're just rearing to get in this. We had the conversation of like, just like join. Maybe, hey, Dean, you want 30 seconds? Do you have anything you want to say to the world?
Hello.
Maybe that'll be it. They've been like in the background just rearing to like show up, and
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing doing this type of stuff because all they want to do is join and share their craziness to the world. But that was Teddy.
He's had Teddy since, well, it was actually his older brothers when he was born, and Dean took over it, and he's been with him every day for the past like 8 years now. It's
I know. Have they seen Emerson in the or anything?
They have,
Yes.
and I think they have inspired at least our older boy because he's done this thing where he's taken Optimize to his class, and then before this quarantine thing happened and it shut down everything, he was talking to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm coaching people at school." And I was like, "What? Hold on."
Yeah, I
now.
was like, what do you mean
Is
you're
it-
coaching? And he's like, yeah, I'm teaching them all about exercise and eating healthy. And he goes, some of the kids, they don't eat the candy that their mom puts in their lunchbox now. I'm just like, well, good for you, kiddo.
We're never going to get invited to their house again. No, that's awesome. That's actually really awesome.
Yeah, it was really entertaining. So I've been trying to push and see where he's at on that, and it would be interesting to have a little Emerson. I think
Yeah.
Emerson and Brian's family is a little more advanced in terms of being able to apply all the skills, but you know, they're right there. They watch the plus ones. They live it. We use the optimized language around the house quite often. So who knows? He could take off and be a little kid coach. There's a guy running around on YouTube, and I forget what his name is right now, but that's kind of how he got going. Was his dad paid him to read a self-help book. So for every self-help book he read, he got paid $10.
Yeah.
And he coached kids, and now
He's got his own coaching business. He's a very young teenager. I think he's like only 14, 15 maybe. But yeah, I've actually been watching him and following him on Facebook, and he's got his stuff down. He's got a lot of wisdom, and he knows how to use the tools and apply them. So yeah.
So I saw you got your note out last week, Pattie.
Yes. Yeah, for eating. So actually, it's interesting because as I was doing it, the similar concepts spoke to me as it did to Brian, but on a different level. So again, I connecting everything to conservation, and so I take care of myself so I can take care of the planet. But the same thing is the bridging. Like by eating healthy, we can eat better for the planet, and it's exactly what I've been learning from conservation circles is that you don't have to eliminate meat, but again, eating mostly plants is healthier for the planet. Again, it's not a matter of eliminating meat, but that if you're going to have meat products, and that goes for seafood or beef, make sure that it's as sustainably sourced. That this is a Michael Pollan quote. Make sure that those animals only had one bad day in their entire life. That's a Michael Pollan quote from Cooked. We watched the series and that. So I found like the same concept, like eating wheat food, not too much, mostly plants, it's a big idea from that book, no matter what. But applying that to conservation and our own health, I've been thinking about writing my own version of eating green, or eating the food rules called eating green, kind of like the same thing. So the same idea. So shop the peripheries of the store, not the perimeters, but the peripheries. And how that applies to conservation. Because when you shop the peripheries, it's whole foods, but typically unpackaged foods, so not as much single-use plastics. And then non-processed foods, which are not going to have palm oil in it. And I don't know if you. Yeah. So yes, there's another quote from somebody that I don't remember. It's real food is ingredients. They don't have ingredients.
I like that.
Yeah, I just got done recently going through holistic health coach certification, and in that process, they explain all the detrimental effects that happen because of packaging or sourcing meat that isn't grown ethically. It's grown economically, but it's not grown ethically. You got all these chickens and cows and pigs, and they're meat, but basically it's always been dead meat because they haven't been fed anything with nutrition. They haven't been taken care of. They've just been some flesh meat that was raised and cut up and shown up at your door, and there's not a whole lot good about it. Yeah. So I completely get anybody who comes from the spectrum of, eat a lot more vegetables, because sourcing that ethically grown meat is really difficult in today's times. And one thing that I've found interesting, especially ever since Tyson put out there that, hey, we're going to have to euthanize all these animals, like all of the organic farmers around here that are raising cattle, all of us, they're all sold out now.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, you could get half a cow, or you could reserve this organically, ethically grown meat, and now it's all gone. So good for them. That was an interesting little tidbit that I noticed.
We kind of did the same thing where we gradually just eliminated, mostly for health for details, but Chris has chronic kidney disease, and he's had a kidney transplant. So kidneys are the organ that process our proteins, and so a high protein diet is not good for him. So we gradually just started lowering our meat intake, and part of it was like he could, when I would be fixing the meals, I'd be like, hey honey, how much chicken or how much do you have? And he would yell back like 4 ounces. And I mean, that's what it should be, but it was like the palm of my hand versus versus my whole hand. And that was almost like, what, is it really worth that? Or you could have the palm of my hand amount of chicken, or you can have this huge bowl of salad. And he's like, I'd rather have more food. He's like,
yeah.
So I kind of gradually went to like, we have less and less meat, and we're not opposed to it. Once in a while I'll bring home some meat, mostly for me. Like I brought some salmon home not too long ago that we shared. It was just a little bit about, but because we don't do it very often, we can spend a little bit more money and not feel like, oh, this is breaking the bank, because it's a special meal, so we can spend it on the high quality food that we need for us, but also more sustainable for the planet. So we have a co-op in Bellingham that we go to.
So good.
I'm sure you guys have. I'm not sure where co-ops are in Seattle, but I know you have them. But they had a sign that was like, I wanted to take a picture because they had on their sign at the seafood, at their meat department, that said, we only source our seafood so that's sustainable for orcas. Like we don't do, we will not serve king salmon. We will not serve certain fish because they have an impact on the local environment. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
And healthier for me, and then healthier for the planet. So
Yeah, a lot of people lose that reality that it's all a circle and it's all a cycle there, and what goes in eventually goes out. And the other crazy thing about, especially when it comes to meat, is like for a cow, it takes roughly 5 to 6 pounds of vegetable matter to create 1 pound of flesh meat. So if you're eating a lot of meat and it's not organic or it's not ethically grown, you're consuming a lot. And a lot of people lose the fact that, you know, it takes a lot to create a cow.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a little opposite. Like my body prefers fats and oils and meat to vegetables, but we're all kind of different. And the one nice thing is we've been through multiple styles of eating over the past few years, and we've kind of settled on a ratio where I need more meat and fats than I do vegetables. Vegetables can cause me some problems, but you need those things to keep your body cruising. And had an event last week where I ate some vegetables that I don't think were organically grown, and instantly, like, my body was like, this stuff needs to go. And it was like, oh, I was trying to figure out, it's like, what just happened? And I was like, oh wait, I ate that last week. And it's just really interesting from my perspective, because I do try to live life kind of as a scientist and try things and see what works. And eating organically, ethically grown vegetables and meat is completely different than going to the grocery store. So living in the Corona times is a little trying, especially around where we live, but we're surviving.
Yeah.
There was,
It's definitely.
hold on.
Go ahead.
There was a documentary we were watching on Netflix. I forget what it was called.
is that are you talking about cooked?
No, but they gave a lot of details on, you know, because you were saying how much it takes to make a cow. I mean, it was Michael Pollan, but it was basically, you know, half the food that's grown in the United States goes to feed our food.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally,
Yeah.
most of the cows that are, you know, for McDonald's and these cows and things like that, they get grains and corn, right? Which is not their natural diet, you know.
Yeah.
And they have to grow cows, and it's like so crazy. Like, wow, half of our food we don't even eat. You know, it goes. And then I was reading, what is that book about bananas?
Oh, how bad are bananas? So
It was about all kinds of like food and vegetables, the basic impact on the planet, right? And then she watched a YouTube video on how they produce bananas in different countries, or some country, or whatever, or most countries. And there was this crazy amount. It was like 2/3 of all bananas that are grown get thrown right in the garbage.
Like,
Literally. 2/3, because they have to measure them, and if they're too big, they go in the garbage. Too small, garbage. And it's not
they're perfectly fine bananas. They're
Look, is it because we're so perfectionist that our banana has to look exactly the way that we expect it to? That
the grocery stores will not take them because people are so specific about banana picking. But this is all vegetables. This is all vegetables. So now
it is crazy.
when we go to the grocery store, the little wobbly celery, the bananas that are maybe a little overripe, these kind of things are what we seek out and we buy because we're trying to change our purchase and change the ideal of society, and get more of that in, this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so you contrast that with 50% of our food goes to feed our meat, and then a whole huge amount gets thrown away because it's not good enough for us,
Yeah, there's a huge problem in the world, especially when we begin to look at the health of our soil and all the things that go into this stuff. By growing consumer perfectionist food, we're just destroying the ecosystem that keeps us and everything else alive. I mean, there was a stat in the holistic health coach thing that I went through that said an average farming family here in America destroys at least 7 acres of soil. And I can't remember if it's every generation or just every 10 years, but because we're using fertilizers and salts and things to get huge tomatoes that are void of nutrition, we're ruining the soil and also destroying the food that we consume. So it's this weird cycle that we're on, and it's funny to hear that people are throwing bananas away because they don't look the way that you want a banana to look.
Well, my brothers, they work on an asparagus farm. Right now they're in the process of harvesting the asparagus, and like they have one, I think it's a company that will buy certain amounts from them, but they want them bundled specifically with specific sizes. Like they don't want anything that's like too skinny or too small. So like even like our local growers, they get nitpicked over the size and the appearance of the food, and it's just like it all tastes the same. It's all going to go out the same. So I thought that it was pretty funny.
It's super interesting that even they're pressured to waste food. Like when we were living on Whidbey Island, our landlord, like, I mean, this is a kind of a new level of like we don't care, but I grew Brussels sprouts, and all sorts. I mean, this is again a sign that you have organic food. All sorts of aphids were like all over my Brussels sprouts, and I just rinsed them off, right? No big deal. I mean, like, I needed to rinse them, and you should rinse your food anyways. But it took, and a couple. I'm not even kidding. Like maybe 3 or 4 would make it into our food, and I'm like, it's not going to kill us. And I mean, I've rinsed them off and I've cooked them, so it's not like they're like have bacteria or anything.
That's the thing with real food. Real food has all these imperfections. It was so great when our previous apartment we had a garden, and to be not only connected with your food and all of its imperfections, but with the seasons. Because I was like, I would like X, and he's like, you can't have it. It's not in season. I'm like, whoa. This is the concept that I'm like so separated from. And then I was like waiting for things to come in season. And then I love kale because it's like you can eat it all year round almost, it seems like, this kind of thing. And then, you go out there and they have holes all in it because there are bugs have eaten it. And like, oh, there's spiders on it, spider webs, birds, a bird flies over and poos on it. You're like, well, I got to walk with it, right?
Yeah.
All that stuff, and you're eating bugs like aphids or whatever. You're like, whatever, this is food. It's like right out of the ground food.
She would do that for the apples too. Like if it wasn't perfect, she's like, oh, you don't want that one. I'm like, give it to me.
Well, and all of the engineered apples now, they are crossbreeding different apples and creating new ones, and it's like, what's the actual nutrition value of all of these apples who've been crossbred with each other to create something new? One of our local growers for grapes here, just the big new craze here is cotton candy flavored grapes. Grapes that taste like cotton candy, and they really do taste like cotton candy. I tried one and I'm just like,
that's
okay, so this is a good way of getting kids who don't like grapes to eat grapes, but what kind of nutrition value are they getting from these grapes because they've been so genetically engineered?
Oh.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so these are great
Grapes
conversations.
are so good, like they are.
I know. I'm like, they're candy. They're basically candy. They're sweet. They're delicious. Why do they have to taste like cotton candy?
We can do a ton of amazing things with food, right? We've developed all these things and they taste good, but the big problem with genetically modified food is our bodies don't absorb it very well. It doesn't matter if you're eating a genetically modified apple that's that big, your body's not going to absorb it because our body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Like there's some crazy stat that our body changes 1/10% in its genome in 100,000 years. So when you look at the last 100 years and what we've done and what we think we've done with food, we think we've created all this amazing stuff, but in reality, our body doesn't know what to do with it. So we're not consuming food that gives us energy and energizes us. We're just consuming stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, cotton candy flavored grapes.
The next time I get to venture out and do some grocery shopping, I'll take a picture of the package for you guys and I'll post it on Optimize. It literally says cotton candy.
Scientifically, that's amazing, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting about genetically
Hang on a sec.
They were talking about original corn, like how it used to grow when we were not so advanced species. It was like this little small thing, right? Most vegetables and everything were tiny. You had to really kind of look for them, all this kind of stuff. And now, like we look at an ear of corn, it's going to be this huge. But its original form, even and this is before genetically modified. This was just crossbreeding. Farmers are trying to get bigger things, just by breeding that without any kind of genetic stuff. But all of our food is modified right now. Every single thing is modified in some way because humans have adjusted it to make it bigger. But now it's a bit more extreme.
Well, yeah, when you add chemicals and preservatives and hormones to the food to bigger and
when you adjust it on a microscopic level.
If you're tweaking again, kind of like scientists, tweaking it naturally. I've had to help plants pollinate themselves, before I can't remember. I think it was my old landlord was telling me if you're not getting the fruit, then find the male and the female flower and sprinkle some of that dust onto the female flower and you'll get fruit. Oh, okay. So doing that, like crossbreeding. So, I wonder what it would be like to put butternut squash with the pumpkin. I mean, I don't know if that's what people have done, but you could do that. And that's kind of like an experiment, but it's not like what we are doing to our food. But that's still considered, it's interesting because when you bring up no GMOs, people will throw that in your face. Well, what if you cross a butternut squash with a pumpkin? That's GMO. And I'm like, yes, on a very technical basis, that is a genetically modified organism. That is what,
Mm-hmm.
you genetically, alter the organism. But you guys know, it's just one of those things that, like, okay, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we are referring to. What we're talking about is, injecting these plants to make them resistant to herbicides, so you can, or resistant to pesticides, so you can douse our food with poisons and kill all the pollinators in the area too. That's where, yeah. You're gonna get to a rant with me.
Well, the thing is, like, a few years ago, I probably would have thought this was insane, but you start going down the path of getting healthier, and it isn't a joke, right? Like, you hear the word zombie used so many times in the health world and so many different things, and you do begin to realize that you were a zombie when you start coming out of it. Like, your body, after a while of saying, hey, I don't really like this, it eventually just shuts up. Like,
Yeah.
it's told people plenty of times that the stuff that we're eating is horrible for us, but because we never listened to it or weren't aware enough of our bodies, we couldn't sense it. So we've been eating all this food for a long time, and we didn't realize it was horrible for us. It didn't really do anything for us. And when you come full circle and you start eating healthier and you start eating organic food, and then you eat a grape that's cotton candy flavored, you might instantly recognize that, oh my God, I feel horrible. Like, we still, as a family, have a day every week where we just eat basically whatever we want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like a game to me to see how horrible is this stuff and how fast is it going to make me feel horrible. Like, I've been usually by 10 o'clock on a Saturday, I've realized that yet again, this is why I don't touch this stuff the rest of the week. And it's building this awareness, especially with our kids, because when they go to school, they're out of our circle of influence and they're in a completely different world. So we're trying to build this awareness of, like, okay, this is how you feel. So the one thing that I've been studying, researching, is the effects of sugar on your blood and your breathing. So when you have high amounts of sugar in your diet, you can't breathe calmly, slowly, and deeply very well. So I've been poking at them the past couple weeks of, like, how's your heart rate? Is it faster than normal? How's your breathing? Are you breathing like you normally do? And usually when we have these sugar days, you're not breathing down into your belly, you're up into your chest. It's shorter. Like, it's outside of how the crappy food affects me physically. It's fun to play that game of, this is how we felt going into this really healthy. How are you going to feel today? And what started off as a thing where we ate every horrible food imaginable, we planned it, we looked forward to it. Now it's almost like a day of dread. And I should just quit, but it's fun to play these games because I should document this stuff as I go further into my journey of becoming a healthier person. Me getting a headache or being ready to say I'm out is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And it's it's a fun game for me to play. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah. Saturdays, when we first started it, it was on Friday night I go shopping, and on Saturday we have $60 worth of just junk food, just whole horrible crap in our in our house. And we'd go through it all in one day. And we would wake up on Sunday and just feel like we had the world's hangover, the worst hangover ever. It was like our bodies were just like, what the heck did you just do to me? And we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and it's been going down slower and slower and slower and slower. We're not consuming like on our cheat days. It's like we've kind of narrowed down what some of our favorite things are still. We're not just going hog wild anymore like we used to. And we're doing smaller portions of it too. Like even our daughter last night, she still has a big craving for Oreos. She likes to eat her Oreos. And she came up to me last night and she was like, Mom, I'm starting to get to that point where I'm starting to feel like I might throw up. So can you take the Oreos and put them away for me? And she's only 5, So it's been an interesting experience because we started out just taking out like our sugars, and then we started really bringing down our carbohydrates, and then we started going more towards plant-based versus the proteins. We were doing 80 vegetable and 20 protein, and we were just experimenting with it. And now we're slowly starting to introduce like some of the different carbohydrates, like a brown rice once a week for dinner. And it's interesting to see how our bodies, especially as individuals, because some of the food affects Mike differently than it does affect me. And same with the kids. And so it's been really interesting as we've been experimenting with the different diets and the different types of foods, how it affects our bodies as individuals, because our bodies are all different. They're going to process different. They're going to need different things. And it's been really interesting to see how how it's had a play in all of us individually. I definitely don't feel the need to eat the carbohydrates nearly as much as I used to. It's not, that's not one of my cravings that I have anymore. I'm just like, I'm kind of done with that. So when we have like our, like tacos or something where the kids can have an option of having like a corn tortilla, I'll just stick with my lettuce as my tortilla. I won't even touch it anymore because I'm just like, I know that that's going to do to me. I don't want to feel like that right now. So I'm just kind of, I don't want to go there. So it's been interesting. It's been a fun little adventure that we've been on over the last couple of years, and going back through and trying to reintroduce a few things to see what it will do to us and how it will affect us throughout this time.
Busted Whole30. Are you guys familiar with Whole30?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're doing our
version.
for the past 2 or 3 months, we've been doing something similar to what you're doing. It's a version of Whole30. It's very scientific. You go for an amount of time without everything as they say, which is they basically cut out everything.
Yeah.
Even eggs.
Well, we did. We cut out certain things that we were just like, we were curious if it would have an effect. So we were thinking eggs might be affecting mostly him, but yeah, my modified ones. Like I also mix eggs, onions, and a couple other things that are approved on Whole30. But
well, I mean, it's been years and years that we've kind of been, really dialing in our food, and it's mostly vegetables.
yeah.
But then we wanted to start introducing some different things, right? Through this, and what you do is you have 2 days where you have, X item, like so that's some cream cheese this morning, right? We did eggs once. We did some onion rings. You know, and you have it for like 2 days, and you have 2 or 3 days back to original for all of everything. So
Mm-hmm.
usually it's like the day of I'm having issues. So,
Hmm.
Yeah.
because it takes your body between 6 to 9 hours to process food to go to your colon, and that's usually where you kind of get one thing. Oh, that didn't sit well or whatever. And yeah, I have a whole list of things that like I used to have steel cut oats every morning for breakfast.
Huh.
You can't have those at all. It's like the best oat you can have. But for me, they but I can't have silicate oats at all anymore. This kind of thing. But it's like that. It's like this kind of testing thing. And I wanted to bring it back to what you were first talking about, Michael, about Emerson and influencing your children and this kind of thing, because we were just watching, or I was watching a plus one with Brian and Emerson, like when he first introduced him into a plus one, and he's super cute and so on. I always heart those because they make me laugh and smile all the time.
Yeah.
And you can tell Brian who love it too because it's there. But I contrast that with like some of our neighbors. There's a corner down here, and they have like 4 or 5 kids, and it's crazy. It's like crazy show, right, all the time. And you see children that are eating like the worst thing, and then you can contrast that with the behaviors of the adults. And almost 100% of the time, it's they're learning from their exemplars, which is you guys. I mean, so you have to, like in most instances, I don't even think you have to go, hey son or daughter, you need to do this. It's almost like, oh, mom and dad doesn't do this, so I don't do this. I mean, when I was a child, my parents felt they didn't need to do any of that kind of stuff. But the one thing that they hated, both of them hated, was cigarette smoke. And me and my brother, we grew up and we always hated cigarette smoke.
Hmm.
So and it's
Yeah,
it's this
and
like influence that happens.
that makes sense too. But my dad used to smoke, so didn't when I was a baby. But my mom always hated it. But my grandma, since she lived in the same city, we were here all the time. She would always be smoking, and yeah, I picked up the smoking habit really young age, and I didn't quit till 5 years ago. No, I was able to quit, but I mean, again, yeah, that makes sense. I like how you are incorporating this, like, letting them explore, being like kind of empowering the children, your children to explore. It's like, yeah, you can have the sugar.
How do you feel?
How do you feel about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're, when we got into parenting, I'm not even going to say that we went in with a plan at all, right? Like I hear some of these parents and I'm like, oh my God, like they have a plan. They know what they want their kids to know when they grow up outside of go to school. Like they knew all this stuff. It took us being a single income family struggling to get through and having some issues that led to self-development, which turned into all this stuff, which led to optimize and all. Like it took all this stuff in the background. So I see these parents that are like go in with a super awesome plan. They're gonna raise these kids with grit and resiliency and all this stuff. I was like, oh man, I bombed it. But as we're in the middle of it, it's working because by working on myself, I realized that, hey, look, this belief system that I'm running, that was created by my mom, my dad, society, religion. It was all constructed for me. So as I'm raising these little individuals, I'm building their belief system. And it is fun to live with children that are aware, because last weekend, just as an example, my oldest boy went to get a little bit of coffee. And I go, hey, I go, that's a super addictive drug that you might want to watch out for. And he looked at me and he goes, well, why do you drink it, Dad? And I go, well, I'm addicted to it. It's an addictive substance. It's been part of my life for a long time. And I haven't come up with a substance to replace it yet that makes me happy, which I could go to tea. We went through the whole conversation. So it is fun to have children that are aware enough to listen to me and then at the same time challenge me. Like, I do enjoy the fact that they can call me out. Living with little optimizers in training can be difficult because they will call you out. And so you better have the ability to set your ego aside as a parent and say, hey, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Well, a big part of this was also to help our oldest son who was having troubles performing at school. He's got a different type of ADHD. He doesn't have the busy body. He has the busy brain. So since he was really small, he would, when he'd had too much going on, he'll space out for up to 5 minutes at a time. And you wouldn't even know that he was spacing. Like he'd be looking out at you. Like the teachers would say that he's looking at me, he's just not retaining anything. And this was going on for a couple of years. And just last year, we finally got it diagnosed, and it turned out that it wasn't that he was just not retaining anything. It was he was spacing out the entire time. And of course, the doctor wanted to put him on all these medications and everything. And I go, that's not us. Sorry, it's not going to happen. We'll find another way of doing this. And so the last 2 years, when we've been taking off all the sugar and carbohydrates and even a lot of dairies, that's slowed down. It's slowed way down. And now he's able to focus more. The doctor told me, this isn't something that you can take care of with a diet. You need to have him on this, this, and this. And I was like, no, I fought against him. And I said, I appreciate your medical advice, but I've done enough reading and research to know that food does play a big part of how your body performs, how your mind performs. And I was able to prove him wrong just by changing Colin's diet. And so now all the kids have that same diet. We're all doing the same thing. That way, you know, he doesn't feel like he's being narrowed out or anything. We're all just being very supportive in it. And there's been a huge improvement just by within the first year. He went up 3 reading levels. Yeah. Just by changing what he was eating. And I mean, of course, you know, kids are going to come in and have birthday parties and stuff like that. And so I've talked to the teachers and I've said, pay attention to him before the birthday party and after the birthday party, and mark that down. And so they've been really helpful in keeping track of that too, and watching the difference in his ability to focus and learn before and after the little birthday parties that they have there. And they're like, wow, yeah, you've hit something really big here. So now that they figure that or they're on board and they know what we're doing and how it really does affect Colin, they put little toys in the goodie box, you know, in the prize boxes instead of just candy in there. And so it's been changing a lot of how they're doing their little prizes at school too. And it's amazing that all it took was one kid to be the exemplar of it. You know, hey, you know what? I've stopped eating this, and this, and look at my grades are going up. My focus is there. My concentration is there. And he can actually tell when he's starting to change a little bit, and he'll just say, hey, you know what? I need a little bit of a brain break. They call it brain breaks now. And he'll go sit on a yoga ball or something for a little bit, and he'll just refocus with a little short meditation. And it's just been such a huge improvement. It's been awesome.
I think that goes right back to what they said earlier, right? Like bringing awareness
Yeah.
to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your influence showed up at school because of Colin, and now other things are influenced because of that.
Yeah.
So this is pretty awesome, especially when you were talking to the doctor, because oh geez. So 2018, I was
You were diagnosed.
at the end of 2017. I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease.
Nope.
So we were at our best shape ever, basically, because I had been doing CrossFit for a couple of years. 10% body fat, muscle like crazy, working out every day. Best shape I've ever been, right? And I kept having migraines every night, these crazy migraines. And I couldn't figure out why. We didn't have insurance at the time. And then I got insurance through my work, thank goodness, because we couldn't afford it otherwise. And we got it on October 1st, 2017. October 2nd, I was in the doctor. And the doctor looks at me and he was like, "What do you know about blood pressure?" And I was like, "If it's high, it's bad." That's of knowledge on like technical health, right? The next day I was in the emergency room because my blood pressure was so high that for so long that I was at risk for brain aneurysm, stroke, all kinds of stuff.
Jeez.
I was in there for like 8 hours, and they pumped me so full of things to try and bring the blood pressure down.
Well,
And
they were saying, no, you need to go to the emergency room because your kidneys are failing. There was like,
yeah,
they're failing. You need to go to the emergency room. By the way, I'm in Florida.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was freaking out, and I was kind of freaking out. The freak out really kind of happened later, but that's really on everything. Well, it turns out, long story short, I had 10% functionality in my kidney. And here's a stat. It's a true stat that you guys should know. You can lose 90% of your kidney functionality and not have one symptom. 90% can be gone, and you won't know why. Okay. Make sure you get a blood test every year, your basic blood test. Always do that every year. Very important. But anyway, so we go through the whole craziness. Doctors, like I have never been in a doctor's office for more than maybe an hour my entire life, on and off throughout all of that. And now I go from then to like 2 or 3 times a week in and out of the doctor's office. And I quickly learned that if I don't say no, this needs to happen, not that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the heck they want, they'll prescribe whatever they want, no matter what. Because what I learned is it's for doctors right now, it's all about heretical changes, like hereditary. And to this day, every single nephrologist that I've ever seen, every doctor I've seen, none of them can tell me why my kidneys failed, because it is not in my family history at all. And I've always told them, I'm like, I know exactly what it is. And I think it was Michelle Seeger. No, not Michelle Seeger. Anyway, one of the books, but they said.
Oh yeah. It was about cancer, but yeah.
It was.
Hereditary might have put.
Loaded the gun.
May have put the bullet in the gun, but it's your environment, your behavior that pulled the trigger.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone into CrossFit. My protein intake went up like crazy. This kind of stuff. I wasn't eating the best thing. A lot of salt, this kind of thing. And that just really kind of put me over the edge. And within 2 years, my kidney functionality went from good to nothing. Just crazy. Until this day, I constantly go to the doctors once or twice a month now, after kidney transplant and do all this stuff. And that's why I was saying thank you for telling the doctor, no, this is what I'm going to do. Because we moved up here, I went to a new nephrologist. and this is me. I'm actualized now. I'm knowledgeable. I know everything about my body because I've been going through it like crazy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
more fit than I was before the kidney transplant, doing everything awesome. And I had to go into the nephrologist and I had to tell him, don't treat me like your regular patients. Okay? I said, I'm willing to make behavioral changes, environmental changes, and metabolism changes to do whatever I can to get off of medication. There's the whole
Sorry.
We just go with it.
You just proved exactly what I'm trying to tell them. Like, I try to tell them, like, hey, we love you showing up, but sometimes it's really hard to finish a thought.
when you just pop up in a
it's
mask.
going on to the background. And we have this super awesome conversation about how to approach doctors. And then little mini Hulk shows up in the background.
At the very beginning, I was going to these appointments with him, and we sat with the nephrologist, and I was like, we want to talk to a nutritionist about our, because I cook all, the real reason I wanted to be involved is I cook all the meals, so I want to know how to treat him. And he was the nephrologist like, you don't need that, just give him some medication. And I'm like, no.
I try to cut him some slack because, like anything in life, we're only gonna know what we know. But if I come into a situation and I know more than you and I can explain the links, I would really hope that they would listen. But there's a lot of folks out there where their egos get in the way, where their training gets in the way. And like what happened with Holly, the guy just shut it down. And it's like, oh, well, okay, I think we're out with you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not willing to work with us, like Chris would be obviously a perfect patient there, right? You go in, you're ready to learn, you're ready to bring your knowledge, you're ready to do what you need to do, and you're actually working as a team. Because the doctors do have a hell of a lot better information than I do on a lot of different things. But from a high level perspective, I think myself and you guys know even a bit more than a lot of doctors out there would ever know.
ADD and ADHD runs very strongly in my family. One of my brothers, he was diagnosed at a really young age too. I mean, he was just like, his body was like just constantly going, like everybody was going insane because he just couldn't sit down for 2 seconds. And they put him on all kinds of different drugs. That was right when, the funny thing is his doctor's name was Dr. Cocaine. No, not even joking. That was his name. His last name was Cocaine. I laugh about it now. I didn't know what cocaine was back then because I was pretty young too. But yeah. So they put him on Ritalin and all these other different medications testing out. And he was either had no appetite whatsoever and would just like dropped a ton of weight and just was very unhealthy. Other drugs he just couldn't sleep. He was up all the time and he wasn't even moving. It wasn't that he was hyperactive. He just couldn't sleep. So all these different drugs, they were screwing with his chemicals, his natural chemicals, and nothing was helping. And I don't even know how it got started on, but my mom and dad started giving him just a little bit of coffee, just black coffee. Because what I think how that started was they were looking at what was actually in the ingredients of it. And one of the things that was a common denominator was it was a little bit of caffeine. It had caffeine in it. And so they started giving him just a little bit of coffee. And it actually helped. It helped mellow him out because his chemicals were completely different from ours. So where caffeine might keep us awake, it actually slows him down. So, even that was like in the early 1980s. or no, 1990s, sorry, 1990s, when they were really starting to get into like Ritalin and everything to help out with all these ADD and ADHDs. And it was all experimental. But my mom and dad, they were like, this isn't working, and we don't want to keep torturing our kid who's dropping a ton of weight or gaining a ton of weight or staying awake or just sleeping the entire day away. You know, there's no balance whatsoever in all of these drugs that you're giving him. He's just getting more screwed up in other ways. And so they were looking at the common denominator, and it was like, oh, there's some caffeine in here. He can't, it's not like he can go have like a Coke or Mountain Dew, because that screws things up in a different way, because then it's a sugar with the caffeine. So as an adult, as he's gotten older and he's been experimenting with things, he's like, okay, so I'm good with having a little bit of caffeine, but I can't add sugar to it because the sugar kind of counteracts the caffeine. So
That would be crazy.
yeah, I mean,
Right. I had only one doctor out of all that I saw, that when I came into, I asked him a question like, yeah, my blood pressure's running high. I do my blood pressure twice a day, all this stuff. And she said, are you getting slept? How are you sleeping? Are you exercising? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, I love you. And then she ended up, she did something else, like she left that job for something else. And that's only one doctor. Everybody else is always like, okay, we can give you this for or that. And the one thing I will say, in that book Peak that I reviewed, I've read the entire book, that I reviewed as an artist, the one thing that really stuck out is, it's all about expertise. Being an expert at something. He's talking about, to be an expert at something, you always have to be outside of your comfort zone, push yourself. So if we drive our car every day, just normally, we can do that. We're in a comfort zone. We can do it okay, but we're not going to be, like, on NASCAR or any of that kind of. Well, all doctors are like that too. If you look at a doctor and you're like, oh, he's been practicing for 30 years, most likely he or she would have less knowledge, less ability to treat you well than the person right out of medical school, like a couple years practicing, because they'll have more updated knowledge. They'll be right into it. They'll have more things for you. I mean, and then he was talking about, there are doctors that will go to conferences and try to keep up with all this information and really learn stuff. But all these conferences are, you sit, you listen, and then you leave. It's like, you don't do that. There are some conferences where they get you up and they have you do exercises like optimize, and that's what you really learn from, this kind of thing. But yeah, and I see that. Like the worst doctor I had was the one that had been practicing for a while, basically. And he was just constantly, let's up this, let's up that. I go to a neuropathologist and he's looking at medication for him. You shouldn't be on this. It kind of, it helps in some way, but there's this right here that's going to help you in 3 other different ways. So he changed on my medication now. I'm taking less of stuff. Yeah, right. But anyway.
yeah. Well, and then, there's, before my grandma passed away 3 years ago, she had open heart surgery like 20 years before she passed. And that seemed to be one thing that the doctors were constantly doing. They were constantly changing her medications. I mean, before she passed, she was taking like 30 pills a day. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And like, it was funny because our two oldest are the little boys. They were saying, well, look at all these pills she was taking when we were cleaning out her place and helping with that. And I go, can you think about that? I go, the doctors had her taking all these medications and it didn't do much for her. I go, she still wound up passing. And I said, I bet she would have been just fine if she wasn't taking all these medications. Because a lot of it is, okay, so she had one pill that would interact with another one in a negative way. And so it was like she was just like a constant science project, you know, what is this drug gonna do when we introduce it when you've already been on this one? And the last, I want to say 3 years, she was in and out of the hospital all the time. And it was because the Coumadin was affecting this other drug that she was on, and it was causing her intestines to bleed. And I mean, there was constant just like movements and medications, and it was like a balancing act of different chemicals, you know. And it's just one of those things where it's like, where's the new knowledge for all of this? Why hasn't this been figured out already? You know, how do you not know that certain medications can't be mixed with medications? You know, I understand that we're still growing in the medical field. There's new medications being made all the time. I myself am into essential oils as healing. I use a lot of them for my medical reasons. And I use them on our children also. Like frankincense is a great oil that helps Colin with his focus. You put it on the back, right at the back of the stem of brainstem, and he's good to go for a while. It helps him with this focus and concentration. It's like, why are we having to go to all of these chemicals and engineered when we have all of this amazing organic natural plants that we can use around us? It's, you know, I know that for a lot of people that seems very far-fetched, you know.
Not me.
Call me the hippie, but but I'd love to see our medical field get more into the natural side instead of the chemical side. You know, what can we create in a lab?
Well, I mean, like for hundreds of years, herbalists and you know, village shamans were using these remedies. Now, not for these newer maladies like ADHD but yeah, they were using the similar, you know, remedies to help relieve anxiety, to relieve stress. Because I mean, of course, but they're using it to do it. So it was working then. Just not, you know, we have changed, but our bodies, as we mentioned before, the way we process hasn't. And in fact, as you were saying at the very beginning, Mike, you know, our bodies have not been designed to accept a lot of these chemicals that we're putting in as far as medication. And then there are some, I was reading about, you know, there's some instances that medication can help. You know, if you're suicidal, you know, depression and suicidal, yes, medication is maybe necessary to bring that down before you can go through more natural therapies. And yeah, if your blood pressure is so high that you are at risk for a stroke, let's use some medication to bring it down, you know, to a manageable level where you don't need as much of that medicine. I'm not saying to never use the medication, but
yeah, there's
I think
there's
we
a
had,
balance,
yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
a wonderful woman inside of me. That if I didn't have medication, my body would attack it and destroy it. You know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I use I spray a lavender on my pillow at night. It really helps me sleep at night.
Yeah, we don't need any sleep aids.
Yeah, we don't do sleep aids.
Yeah.
We look at our environment first, and I would be really interested in, you know, all that you know about herbal remedies that work for you. Not just this is what I've heard, but hey, I've tried it and it actually works. That's the information I would like to gather.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would enjoy just getting into more herbal remedies, definitely. And especially you, Mike, you said you were getting into, what is it? I forget what you call
Holistic.
it. Holistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going down the path of a holistic health optimization coach because the medical system's built for a very specific reason. It solves, it treats symptoms, but it doesn't treat the root cause of it. So every program that I've been through, it really does focus on the fundamental aspects of living, and that's eating, moving, breathing, sleeping, the water that you drink, how you think, the emotions that you feel, all these things that generate everything. I mean, the holistic health coaching program that I just went through, I thought it was funny because it lined up almost perfectly with Optimize. It added emotions and the water that we drink, but everything else was there: eating, moving, breathing, sleeping. They didn't call out prospering exactly. Where Optimize for me is how to get my life in order. The other programs that I'm going through are beginning to get a little more detailed in the actual health side of things. So I'm trying to build up this repertoire of knowledge and skills that hopefully I can work with people in the future about the importance of fundamental living. So it's awesome to hear a doctor say, look, you got to get these other things right before we can even know where to go.
Yeah.
Because you could have an imbalance somewhere within your body, and the only way to actually treat that imbalance is try to get your body back into balance naturally.
Yeah.
But when you're eating a bunch of hormone laden foods, and they provide some of the greatest training in the world, because it's super hard to carry on a thought process as you're just picking up little Power Rangers flying around in the back. So we're doing a lot better than we used to do. But yeah, the holistic side of it is where I'm heading.
Nice.
So it's kind of fun because she's been into oils for a while, but a lot of the times we use the oils to treat a symptom instead of enhancing our body or enhancing our emotion. Back when we first started, it was, oh, I've got a migraine. Well, you can use this. I mean, it's treating, but it's fun to get to the point now to where you begin to build blends to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling. I'm kind of low on energy. I'd like a little more energy right now. I'm going to do some writing. What kind of little oil tincture can we come up with that's going to boost me here? Or like, it's fun to get to that point. Little mini shaman in training.
Well, and his mom was actually the one that got me into the oils. I struggled with depression for a long time, and I've been marked as one of those people who can't take antidepressants because they do put suicide in thoughts in me. So on my medical chart it shows no antidepressants whatsoever. So I've had to find different ways to deal with it, and the essential oils have actually really helped out in that area. It's been helping getting me more balanced over the last several years. I haven't had like out of the norm depression, I guess you can say. I've had like struggles lately with my dad passing where I just get sad, but it's not like I'm just sitting around in a depression like I used to be all the time with nothing even happening to me, just my chemicals were just completely imbalanced. And that's another thing that kind of runs in my family is depression as well. So I've learned how to manage my depression without having medications, especially since I'm one of those people who's sensitive to the medications, and it kind of drives me further into it. I'm still learning a whole lot about the oils. There's so much out there, so much information, and there's so many different combinations. Like his mom is amazing. She's like my little witch brewer. Lotions and potions is what we call it. But yeah, you know, I know that, like, especially for like for people who've had transplants, that there are certain things that you need to have in order to keep that going, so it doesn't reject, your body doesn't reject it, because it is foreign. I mean, it's a kidney, but it's not the one that you were born with. Your body doesn't identify with it. It's completely different. So I can, you know, I completely understand that. It's finding, like, once you're there and everything is whole, I guess you can say, your body's like, okay, this is a part of me. It's here. We're working, functioning perfectly. It's getting off of other medications that might still be needed, where they're trying to push it and saying, well, you still need this for, you know, for your blood pressure and everything else. Well, that doesn't have anything really to do with, you know, my body going to reject anything now. What can I do to regulate myself without the extra medications that are being prescribed for me? What can I do naturally to take care of that? And that's the kind of stuff that I'm really wanting to dive deeper down into. If it was up to me, well, we already are doing it. Our kids only go to the doctor once a year. You know, they do their yearly checkup and that's it. When it comes to like them getting sick with even like the flu or a cold or whatever it is, we tackle it with it completely naturally. I did find one doctor that is amazing. Her name's Dr. Hansen, and she does both sides of it. She stays up in the medical field for all of those who are, you know, who don't believe in doing things naturally or holistically, but she's also into holistic healing. She was showing me different pressure. Once I told her, she goes, well, what were you doing to help out with this? And I go, well, I was using Melaleuca for this little infection that was here. And she's like, okay, so here's some pressure points that will help release this natural chemical that your body creates to help that healing process too. And I'm like, whoa, really? Awesome. Teach me. Come on, be my Yoda. And it's awesome because she brings the best of both worlds into it. You know, if you're thinking out of the box and you're trying to do things more naturally, she can give you all that information. If you're not believing in that, if you don't believe that you can do something naturally, you have to have this magical pill, then she's got that for you too. And I think it would be awesome if we can kind of bring that into our medical field more, where bringing the best of both worlds in.
And you said belief several times, and that's exactly what is all about our society right now. It's like, well, I don't believe climate change, you know, this kind of thing. The next person said this, or the next person said that. I don't believe that actually does anything. But you look at the science behind it, and you're like, oh, it does really work. So we pick out things from both ends. We take it all in and say, oh, well, this works best for me because I have a kidney transplant, and I do have to have blood pressure medication. But you know what? I exercise, I breathe more, I meditate now, and I can come off of like half of my blood pressure medication because of that. You know, that's
awesome.
You know, just from changing my things around. And I will say this parenthetically, they don't like when you adjust your own medication. Really. They really are like, you're not supposed to be doing that. I'm like, well, I know my body and you don't. So I'm going to do it if I, you know, and do the test, because blood pressure is one of those things where it's not an acute thing. You can't take something to drop your blood pressure right away. But you can up your blood pressure in like 2 seconds, which is weird.
Yeah, that is strange. How the body, like, it doesn't want to naturally come down, but it's ready to ramp up, right? Always ready to run from a tiger.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's where we can blame that on our
ready.
ancestors back in the caveman times, where it's just like they had to go from like 0 to, we gotta go quick, we're gonna get eaten, you know. And then it takes a while to come back from that.
Yeah.
of having both sides, you know. So we can look at the medical field with you know, our lab coats on, a scientific eye, and look at research and say, yeah, that seems to be doing well, instead of, oh, I'm not gonna immunize because I believe that it causes X, Y, and Z, you know, this kind of thing. Or I'm gonna live in a shed somewhere and only do holistic medicine with tinctures and oils and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's extremes, and I think, you know, like the river of flow, we got to sit in the middle of it as much as we can and not go to both sides. I'm seeing that more in everything that I do now.
Yeah, it's finding that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. That was
And that's what it is with everything in life, really. It's just finding that happy medium, getting that balance in, and then just moving with that. But finding the balance that's the key, right? And that's like one of the hardest things, is actually finding that wonderful, beautiful, harmonious balance. It's
yeah. I mean, even the last program that I went through, its whole thing was you got to have your one love. What's your purpose? Then you've got your two forces, your yin and your yang. You need to be in balance. Then you have your three choices: the optimal choice, the suboptimal choice, or the choice of indifference. Indifference is horrible. And you have your four doctors: Dr. Beaven, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Sleep, and I'm forgetting the fourth doctor. And then it got into, there was like a 6-step thing, but like the whole point of it was to identify that you do need to be in balance. Like, you need to push your body, you need to grow your body, you have to push it, but then you also have to allow it to rebuild. So there was exercises on how to work out, and then there was work in exercises that's like Tai Chi and building energy and things like that. And for me, a lot of this stuff keeps coming back to awareness. I'm stuck in that rut. I can't get out of it, but it keeps coming back to awareness. Once we become aware of something, whether it's feelings, emotions, our belief system, who we want to be, where we are, where we want to go, like when you start to become aware of these things, you can begin to make conscious choices.
yeah.
And even with holistic health, you got to realize that you're not an expert in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I said it last week, my one love, my life's goal, my life's purpose is to be some sort of quickie mart of health. I want to be able to help you with whatever the hell you need help with. But I'm fully aware that I'm not going to be the guy to solve every problem. I got to build a team of experts that know, oh, this dude, okay, looks like he's got some kidney problems. I got him. Like, thanks, man, but I got him. And so I have to take this big, gigantic viewpoint of everything to where if I'm working with somebody, I can say, hey, you're going to have to go see this guy. He's going to get you handled. When you're done there, come back here. We'll keep you cruising. But it all comes back to awareness for me.
I love that because, you know, going through the whole kidney thing, and I feel like I'm like talking way too much. I tend to do that. But anyway, going through the I realize how complex the human body is. And that's why we have a nephrologist, an oncologist, you know, people that deal with certain types of cells in your body, because a nephrologist deals with your nephrons, which is the cells in your kidney. There's so much complexity just in kidneys alone. There's no way on earth that one doctor could know everything about the human body. Like, there's some doctors that could like specialize in 2 or 3 organs, maybe, but it's like, I know everything about kidneys, but everything else, you know, done. You know, that kind of thing.
Which is amazing. Veterinarians.
Right.
I mean,
they have to know
they have to know
everything.
everything.
Yeah, the world's amazingly complex and wondrous. I mean, even when her dad was passing away, I had to take a step back and just be in admiration of what the hospital was doing. This room had 20 plus people, it had the lead ER guy there just kind of directing all these people. So he'd be doing his thing, he'd be calling out for something, this other team would rumble in and do their thing. Like, it was absolutely amazing what they could do and what they were doing. So I always have that in the background, that like the whole medical industry is absolutely amazing, but to avoid going there, there's a lot of other things that we could do. Like, go there, if you lose a hand, you better go there pretty fast. But if you're having some emotional issues, maybe exercising and eating some organic food could keep you from having to go there. So
like Michael Pollan goes there too, saying like, you know, that there's just one of the reasons why we aren't getting as much information about, you know, about what a behavioral change, what, you know, your diet, sleeping, and exercising can do for you, is because there's so much money involved in this, in the new Western, you know, modern American diet, standard American diet. There's so much money, but it's not just the Western diet that has this insane amount of money involved in it. It's the medical industry, and they get more money by treating our illnesses than they do preventing them.
yeah.
So there's a lot more incentive for them to treat, to let us get fat, let us get unhealthy, and then treat those illnesses, versus what can we do to prevent these from happening, or, you know, holistically treat them from happening. So we need more of that, and we need to, and it goes back to my conservation things, that, you know, what's the number one way you can prevent poaching? What's the number one way you can prevent, you know, a lot of endangered species from disappearing? It's proving that they are worth more alive than dead. And so we have to prove that preventing illnesses is worth more than treating them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what happened was my dad tore his aorta when he was working out, and he thought it was just an injured muscle, and it was causing blood to leak into his lungs, and he's slowly losing his blood volume, and he got dizzy and he fell, and when he fell, it further shredded the aorta. So when they were performing CPR on him, with each pressure that they were putting, it was forcing blood to go everywhere but where it was supposed to. And what we learned was if he would have gone in to the doctor and got checked out, there's a possibility that they could have caught that and could have fixed it. So his doctor, they did a chest x-ray, and they saw that there was fluid in his lungs. And we were wondering, this was right before we went into lockdown with the coronavirus. And so I was like, did my dad have the coronavirus, or what was going on here? And his actual doctor was able to look at things and say, no, Hunt, that was from the blood going into his lungs, slowly going into his lungs. So his actual doctor said the same thing happened to him in his 40s. He was doing a normal workout routine and he tore his aorta. The thing that saved him was his wife saying, you look horrible, you need to go in. They were able to catch it and get it prepared. He had a heart attack on, I guess, when when just before they started performing surgery on him, his doctor, but they were able to get in there and they were able to fix it. And he, you know, he's well into his 60s now and he's doing great. So, you know, it's paying attention to your body, and it's one of those things where it's, I guess, thinking and knowing, you know.
That's really tough. And only after
Yeah.
kidney disease and kidney transplant do I now not care about looking like a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
Basically, if I feel this isn't right, I'm in the doctor. We've been to the emergency room several times since then because, you know, she was having, at one point,
Yeah,
she was having some weird chest pain. I'm like, we're out, we're going. I'd
Yeah.
like to pay $1,000 to be fully okay, then
Because,
ignore it.
I
And,
don't need, you know.
yeah, and then something be awful. You know, this.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point because, you know, being aware enough of yourself to know that something's wrong and to know that you don't have the skills or equipment at your home to really keep you going. Because even, I don't want to take this too far, but to go back to her dad, at one point they talked to us, said, the only reason he's alive right now is because we've got the machines on him. He's running on some rocket fuel. Like we've done, like the hospital was the thing that was keeping him going. They have the ability to do that. There's so many tools that the hospital and the doctors have that a holistic coach doesn't.
Yeah.
So you are playing this balance game of use your holistic lifestyle to live and learn the most you can about yourself and your body. But when something's wrong, go.
And that's finding the balance, you know, it's getting in tune with your body and knowing your body so well to where, you know, this isn't something that I'm not feeling right. This isn't something I feel like I can handle or heal. So going in and getting checked and getting that extra opinion, just saying, you know, something's not sitting right with me. So
I love that so much because normal society, we keep McDonald's, we do all this stuff. We got so much craziness going on already. How are we going to know if something really bad's happening?
Yeah.
You know, and I love that we have such an awesome connection now. You know, I'll give you an example. Like I have to watch my life really carefully. Kidney disease, and we, the 50th. Her parents had their 50th wedding anniversary, and she went for 3 weeks to go do that, and I had to fly out, help her out for one day, and then fly back the next day. It was a quick trip, right? The day I was there, I wasn't eating right. I knew I wasn't eating right, and then I was, you know, going back and forth. You know, I was innervated. You know, anxiety was like crazy doing stuff, and then that night, all they had was the catered food. It was not catered for my diet, but I was starving when I ate. And then that was the night before I had to get on a plane at 5 a.m. And I got one of those migraines back, the same one. Migraines back one before I was diagnosed. It was like, either I lay down or I'm going to be in the toilet for the next 2 hours. Like that bad is not migraine. I had crazy.
Yeah, it's
The next day I was like, that was awesome. You know why? Because if anybody went to McDonald's, had a burger, and it appeared like right here, like a burger, you know, they would never go to McDonald's again. And that's
right.
what I like appearance of like, you did something wrong.
Yeah, you know, like looking back at last year with the optimized stuff, you know, a part of me really holds a grudge against the optimized team and Brian and Michael and all them, because I never used to feel the effects of a bad night of sleep. It was what it was, right? I woke up and I cruised on. So I love being able to say, you know what, those guys screwed up my day because they made me aware of how even getting 6 hours of sleep just makes me suck the next day. So it is fun. It's fun to be able to have those direct impacts. And to go even back to our crappy food day Saturdays, it's nearly instant. The effects of sugar and all that stuff are almost instant. And I love that data because I can take that data and say, look, I live this life 6 days a week. This is my Saturday, and look at all these symptoms that get to show up on Saturday. So I'm punishing myself for the sake of society.
That experimentation.
We're building this awareness, and you know, I think a lot of it comes back to awareness. You know, for a lot of us, it takes some sort of crisis to happen, and I think it was Albert Einstein said, you don't need a, oh man, I'm going to bomb the quote, so I'm just going to stop. But the genesis of it is you shouldn't need a crisis to live a good life. And I think that's kind of what something that you've gone through, Chris, and we've gone through over here is we've gone through those crises, come out the other side and realize that, man, it would have been really nice to avoid that crisis. But a lot of people don't have the information or the knowledge or access to people to say, yeah, this sounds a little crazy, but let's try to live this way for a little while and then see how you feel.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry we lost.
Yeah, really sorry to hear that.
You know, he gave the gift of sight to 2 people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was an organ donor, and I received a really cool certificate that had his, in honor of him giving the sight to 2 different people, and we can connect with those people if they want to connect with us. There's an open line of communication there, so that's pretty awesome to know that. And it's kind of healing too, to know that he's still out there, you know, because that was one thing. He was a servant to people. He had a very strong Christian belief system, and he was always very serving to everybody. And to know that he was continued to serve even after he passed, that was pretty awesome. Kind of healing. So yeah, still going through the process of it. I could too.
Well, guys, it's been an amazing conversation. It's been a lot of fun. I think there's 2 things that are happening. Either our kids are cleaning their room or they're destroying it. So I think we're going to have to end this one. We'll
Dean's
be
on
back
rollerblades.
next Sunday if you want to join us again. But it was a absolutely lovely conversation with you 2.
Yeah.
Well, Pattie, what are you up to for the next week?
I actually today is coaching day. I have a first coaching session with a friend all the way from Florida that I reached out to her. Hey, do you want to help me practice coaching? Her response was yes.
I love it.
Awesome. How about you, Chris? What are you up to for the next week?
You know, I'm one of those guys who just kind of watch,
Yeah.
right? You know, I got my habits that I run throughout the day. It's always work, hard work, workout, and then a lot of eating in between. But today, for Sunday, I'm coaching another artist that lives.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, you guys keep on cruising. We're going to go hang out with our kids and have an amazing Sunday. So We'll be back next Sunday if you want to join us.
Yes. Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys. Bye-bye. Okay, there we go.